Hello and welcome back to the Leinster Listen. I'm your host Mick Linan and it's episode 59. And it's a special one, I suppose, because normally I would start this by saying the preview or review of whatever match was on. But we don't have any more matches because we're back-to-back winners of the URC. No, this is actually a special episode, and it's probably going to be one large discussion point with the focus on the summer series that is coming up. I suppose you want to call it the Nations Championship. And let's get into it. All right, so folks, the Nations Championship is coming up. The summer series is a summer campaign. And I suppose I wanted to make this episode, since it's a little bit of an interim one in between what's coming and what's happened. But we're going to go through the squad a little bit with a focus on the fly-half position. Now, let's start this off by going through a little bit of the squad picture as it is now. So, as you would have known, on the 17th of June, Andy Farrell named his 36-man Ireland squad for the summer series, I suppose, is what we're talking about. And within that, I do have to note that there technically is 4 out-halves mentioned there. And one of them is not who you think I'm going to say, but they are Sam Prendergast, Harry Byrne, Ciarán Frawley, and Nathan Doak. Now, you would have said Crowley would have been here, but look, he's injured, he's not travelling, and that's just it. And the reason I say Nathan Doak there, and I know he normally plays scrum-half, but he is a good kicker, and he does occasionally play 10 position for Ulster. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that. And, it's a strange one. You might be thinking, all right, he's pulling at straws here, but I might convince you otherwise coming down the line here. But look, let's go back a little bit. Obviously, Jack Crowley ruled out there. He got a blood vessel injury in his leg. He can't play, and he hasn't played since mid-April. Munster boss Clayton McMillan obviously confirmed that diagnosis there. And that's just it. He's out. Fair enough. I don't think Andy Farrell kind of expected him before he put out that squad anyway. So it is what it is. On top of that, though, unfortunately, Andrew Porter is also out, which is a significant blow to the pack. And then you also have Doris and Tommy O'Brien, who've also been tipped away from that. Tommy O'Brien obviously getting that groin complaint, and Doris obviously going off very early there, within 6 minutes of that URC final with a foot injury. So, first and foremost there, Dan Sheehan obviously taking over as captaincy, so that's fantastic for him, huge step up there. But more notably, the players that were called up, in the stead of Tommy O'Brien and Caelan Doris, is 2 fantastic players, and they're coming from Ulster. And 2 fantastic players, mind you, and you definitely know them by now. And that is Bryn Ward and Zach Ward. Bryn Ward is a 21-year-old. He's obviously brother to Zach Ward. But Bryn is the back row in for Doris. And Zach Ward is the back in for Tommy O'Brien. Now, both of them are, if you know him, sons of Andy Ward, who had 28 Ireland caps and played in the 1999 World Cup. But look, they are Ulster's representation to the squad, and they actually achieve a double-figure squad number now because they've been added into it. There's also 3 uncapped players in Connacht, and they were Billy Bohan, Sam Illo, and Sean Jansen, and that actually makes 5 uncapped players in a total now. So that's, I think I would have said it in another episode before, but it's fantastic to see uncapped players being brought in for these kind of, I was going to say Mickey Mouse championships, but they're not Mickey Mouse championships. They obviously are going to have weighting to the world rankings, but they're not ones that you would probably want, a lot of effort put into, especially coming up to the likes of the World Cup and another 6 Nations. But look, it's fantastic. The Leinster lads flew out there on Monday. They're in Australia now. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be fantastic games. It's great for those 5 uncapped players as well. Really hope they shine through. And this is the time to experiment with the team. You don't want to obviously experiment, right before the World Cup. So hopefully this does actually change the dynamic. But realistically, what I want to talk about here is that fly-half position. Now, as I said before, Jack Crowley has been ruled out. I do think if he wasn't injured, he might have been pipped for the starting position for most of these, just considering how Sam had performed at the international level there in the 6 Nations. Just really didn't shine properly for Andy Farrell. Now, as we all know, he played a fantastic last 3 games and really stepped up when he needed to in the URC. So he probably has my full backing at this moment. But, I do want to talk a little bit more about what is actually happening in that squad. And I gave a little hint there saying that there is potentially 4 fly-halves being sent out, which I think is actually crazy. We definitely have enough depth there to just send out 2. Now, as I said, Nathan Doak obviously plays scrum half, but we've all seen him play that 10 position. We've all seen him slot balls over those posts very easily. But let's just start off with Sam Prendergast there. He's 15 Ireland caps there. He started his first Six Nations game, the first two Six Nations game actually this year. So, had been given literally the reins and unfortunately just didn't capitalise on it. But, he is Leinster's man for the big nights now. He's done such a fantastic job in those last three games. Played an absolute blinder there in the grand final. So look, he's our preferred start obviously. Harry Byrne, again, he is a very good player, but just really wasn't given the reins there in the URC. Now he was obviously given it in the European Championship, but the form book says at the moment that Sam Prendergast should be started in Sydney, and that is what's happening. I do okay, the team sheet hasn't been announced for that first game, but I have every faith that Sam Prendergast is going to start in that. But, questions remain there about the game management, and it's a bit strange, right? Because looking at that team sheet, the untrained eye, I'm not saying I'm a trained eye, but the untrained eye might say, yeah, look, sure, you have Sam Prendergast, you have Harry Byrne, and you have Ciarán Frawley, right? But no, I honestly think Nathan Doak has been put in there as an absolute backup to the 10. And the reason I say that is because you have Craig Casey, who's a fantastic scrum half, has been put on that team, and obviously Jameson Gibson Park. I don't really think you need more than two scrum halves, right? It's okay, well, fair enough, Nathan Doak can play that, so you have three, right? But I do think that he has been put there specifically for that 10, and I think it's going to be an experiment. Do I think he's going to start at 10? Probably not, but let's just kind of go through each of them and see what kind of comes up here. So Harry Byrne, obviously, fantastic that he's been named in this squad first off, because he only has 4 Ireland caps. Like, even when I saw that, I was like, no, I have to double check that doesn't seem right. He only has 4 stars, well, not even stars, I'm assuming he probably came on for those, but 4 caps for Ireland is just crazy, and it really does show that he really came to the Leinster squad at a very bad time. He was obviously Sexton's, little apprentice coming on there. He's Harry Byrne's little brother, so he had all these people kind of putting him into their shadow, putting him into his corner, into his little box, and you can stay there now, and you can come out now when we go off to Six Nations, and you can pop out every now and again and take the reins. And it's unfortunate really when he's come to then in this season when Sam Prendergast really wasn't shown, and he stepped up to the mark and he's done a fantastic job at it. But it's just immense. I even just still, even though I've double checked it, the fact he has 4 caps is just crazy. Moving on there to Ciarán Frawley, he has 12 Ireland caps, which is all right, okay, fair enough, but he's a versatile option. He actually, starred at fly-half on the 2024 summer tour to South Africa. He actually started both tests there in Johannesburg and Cape Town, and he did actually show an awful lot of composure and a calm head in hostile environments. And also, you'll remember years and years ago when he came on to try get that drop goal against, I think it was La Rochelle, or maybe it was Toulouse actually, but he can play 10, he can play 12, or he can play 15, but really he's moving to Connacht because he wants to play 10. I think Andy Farrell knows that. He's definitely been vocal about it, and he wasn't getting it under Leo Cullen, so he is a dark horse here. And at New Zealand at Eden Park, I think that might even be the game for him. I think they might give him the option of starting at 10 there. But the one I want to focus on here is actually Nathan Doak. Now, Nathan Doak only has 1 Ireland cap. Again, something I had to double check. I was just like, this can't be right. But he made his senior debut there against Wales in Six Nations in March 2026, so literally just this year. Obviously, he's the Ulster scrum half by trade. I'm not saying he shouldn't be playing scrum half. He is a very good scrum half. But he's played fly half throughout his career as well. Look, he started at 10 for Ulster when he was needed. He's a very handy goal kicker, and he's another string to Farrell's bow there. He is a very good one, and Farrell picked him as his 4-10 option, in my opinion, because Craig Casey's the other scrum half, and Jameson Gibson Park is the other scrum half, and that's enough, lads. So why is he being put in there? Is he really thinking that one or both of those scrum halves are going to get injured and he needs a backup scrum half? No, I don't think so. Look, am I saying he's going to start against Australia or New Zealand? No, but now here, stay with me here now. Stay with me, right? I do think he might be started in the Japan game. Right? I think he will be. And look, I might be saying, look, I have a tinfoil hat on right now if you can't see it because I'm only talking, right? But I do think he's going to start against Japan because he might just be that experiment that we need. And look, Doak at 10 with Gibson Park or Casey at 9 would be an absolute weapon. It'd be an absolute weapon. He's so good. So look, he's the outside of the 4 there, but he's in the squad for a reason. He's 22 years old. It's his first proper Ireland tour, and I think he is there because Andy Farrell wants him as a potential 10 for the Ireland gig. And as I said before, this is the experimental time. You have the 5 uncapped players. Why not just throw another hat in the ring there? Andy Farrell has the perfect opportunity to blow the discussion around the 10 in the Ireland gig out of the water here. He's going to make the media froth at the mouth if he puts Nathan Doak at 10, right? And it won't even take Sam Prendergast being injured, or it won't even take Ciarán Frawley being injured. If he just starts him at 10, or even puts him as the backup 10, I think that is going to start a huge conversation there. And I don't know anything about Nathan Doak. I don't know if his aspirations there are to be a 10. To be honest, every time I've seen him play, he's opting for the kicks, he's opting for the kick goals. Obviously, Ulster have a fantastic 10 already, but I think he has been, put in the same position as Ciarán Frawley has in Ulster, in the sense that he probably wants to start at 10, but newer 10s are coming along and are just a little bit better than him, and he's been pushed to the side. And look, as I said, he's a fantastic scrum-half, but you have to wonder what Andy Farrell is thinking, putting 4 lads there who can play fly-half into that squad. Now, I do think, though, right, if Nathan Doak starts as 10 in any of those games, Ciarán Frawley is going to blow his top. Like, imagine moving to Connacht, right, and thinking, right, this is my time to prove myself as a 10, get onto the international gig, be put in that fly-half shirt, and then Nathan Doak comes along, a natural scrum-half, and gets that 10 position. I'd feel for Crowley now, to be honest, and he's a fantastic player. And as I said before, I'm raging he's leaving Leinster, but obviously himself and Leo just had literally the end of their conversations. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you think? Is it potentially what Andy Farrell's trying to do? Coming into like the last year before the World Cup comes around, is he thinking, right, I need to effing sort out this 10 position? So why not put a little bit more pressure on the 2 boys that are obviously pipped for the the starting position there, obviously being Sam Prendergast and Jack Crowley. Now, Harry Byrne, honestly, I do think he needs his time. I think they should put him in as the 10 in one of those games. Start him, right? He obviously played a fantastic series in the European Champions Cup. Fair enough, the last game, the actual final, wasn't fantastic. Sam Prendergast obviously came on for him. But I do think he's actually shown potential there. I think he needs to be given the opportunity to show himself in the international level. And look, as I said before, I'm probably battling both sides of the table here, because I've often said that we need to have less players from Leinster fielding the Irish team. I suppose this time you probably are seeing it, because as I said, Ulster, after hitting double figures now for their team, fronting the Ireland team as well. So, but again, an awful lot of those players you're looking at are Leinster players, and the fact that the 2 Ward brothers coming up is mainly because 2 Leinster players are injured. But look, maybe I am being a little bit out on a whim here. Maybe it is too far-fetched. Maybe it is tinfoil hat time for this. But I was just looking through that sheet again, and I couldn't help but notice that Sam Prendergast, Harry Byrne, Ciarán Frawley and Nathan Doak are all very good fly-halves when they need to be. So look, I suppose in a sentence, I guess, do I think he's going to start? No. Do I think he'll be an option? Absolutely. And to be honest, I can't really see a time when Nathan Doak is going to be put on that scrum-half position first. Maybe Japan, but first before Ciarán Frawley, Craig Casey and Jameson Gibson Park. Those lads are just, they're so good. Obviously, Jameson Gibson Park is probably going to get the position first, and he'll have Craig Casey on the bench. But like, if you're really bringing Nathan Doak as a backup for an injury, that is, well, as it is, an insult, really. So that's why I'm thinking. I'm thinking, I'm putting this little tinfoil hat on. I'm just, pondering around, trying to stir the pot here. But I also think that he probably should be given a shot. He's a very good player. He's a very good track record with actually putting them over the posts at hard angles as well. And the fact that he only ever has one Ireland cap is also something that should be considered there as well. He obviously hasn't been tried and tested in that 10 position. Obviously hasn't been tried and tested in the scrum-half position, naturally enough, since he only has one cap. But yeah, I don't know. Look, who starts where? Maybe, okay, let's go through it, right? So we have Australia on the 4th of July. Prendergast, 100%. He's going to start there. I'd say we're all in agreement here. You go with what you know. That's it. No experimentation round one. You don't want to go do that against Schmidt's Wallabies. And obviously, I'd say Byrne is going to be on the bench and Frawley within the bench. They're covering 10 and 15 respectively. Yeah, fair enough. Now, Japan, right? Japan, I think, is the rotation game, right? I think you're going to see an awful lot of those uncapped players being brought on to that game. Now, that's not putting anything against Japan. Japan are a very good team. They have gotten the experience through all those Kiwis going over to make bank. So they've been looking at all those plays. They do a very good job. They've obviously had those huge upsets where they beat us in the World Cup, and they've beaten South Africa in the World Cup. Huge upsets there. They're a team to be reckoned with. Now, in the Nation Series, we don't really care. Well, not that we don't really care. Well, we don't really care, right? But we'll say that kind of hushed. We'll say that the quiet part out loud. We don't really care, right? The World Cup obviously is the main event, and the Six Nations obviously is another big event that we want to actually perform well in. But that Japan game, right, 11th of July, it's in Newcastle, obviously down south, not the Newcastle right beside us. I think we're going to see a huge and heavily rotated team, right? I think Farrell's going to say, right, this is my time to do a bit of an experimentation. Even if we lose this, no one's really going to care if we put a brand new team out, right? And mark my words now, I'm not a betting man, but mark my words, Doak at 10 against Japan. That'll tell you a lot about Farrell's thinking. Now, Farrell, if you're listening to this, fair play to you. You finally found a podcast worth listening to. However, don't take me as someone who should be trusted with these decisions. But why not? Why not just throw Doak at that? He might be an absolute star. He might be a star. He might come out there and miss absolutely nothing. So, why not? Why not? Now, New Zealand, 18th July. Don't fucking do that, right? That's the acid test. You cannot, especially at Eden Park, you cannot play anything that we are not absolutely sure about. Go hell for leather with that one and put the entire team that you've always put out against that team, because we cannot lose against it. I want of all those games, I just want us to beat the All Blacks. Jesus Christ, please. So with that, obviously go with Sam Prendergast. And then it'll be Frawley. It'll be Harry Byrne probably as the backup there. Or, but you know what? Probably Frawley's there as well as it'll be. No, yeah, it'd probably be a 4. Will it be a 4 too? You don't know. Look, I don't know. But what I'm saying here is, I'm probably sounding a bit crazy now. I'm taking the tinfoil hat off. Sorry. Look, I think with that one you have to probably just play what you know. We need that one. That's the game changer one. You need to have that, especially going into the World Cup. You need to have that game solid. But look, 3 games, 4 fly-halves. I think someone's going to miss out entirely. But that's part of the story. And I do think that the media will go absolutely bonkers if Nathan Doak starts 10 in one of those games. So why not? It'll actually probably revitalise an awful lot of this discussion around the 10, around the Ireland team. Are we ready for the World Cup? Are we going to dominate? Are we going to get to the semi-final? I think we do it. Just do it. Why not? It couldn't hurt us, really, could it? But look, anyway, the bigger picture here, kind of a closing comment in that sense, and probably take you back into something less crazy. But the bigger picture here, obviously, is Crowley will be back for the Northern Series in November, so it's the very late one. That's against Argentina, Fiji, South Africa, and that's at the Aviva. So that's going to be an absolute cracker series of games. Can't wait for that. I'm hoping I can get tickets to the Fiji game. I didn't get tickets to either of the other ones yet, but the Fiji game is probably the most likely to have more tickets available, so I'm going to try get to that, but I would love to see the Pumas play. Don't know, might be able to. But look, the summer is all about finding what we have as first choice. I think we're not there yet. I think we're building upon that, and the Ward's obviously going to make a very tough discussion around that time coming into the World Cup in 2027. But look, 3 of the 4 there, even at the 10, are Leinster. Doak is obviously the Ulster outlier there, but Farrell clearly sees the rest of them as a 10 option. Gibson Park at 9, Ringrose and Aki in the midfield. An absolute spine there. Fantastic. That is chef's kiss. But look, Farrell's challenge there is still a 10 pick. So Sam Prendergast really is going to want to shine. Obviously, really had a huge setback in the Six Nations. We can all agree at that. Just really did not get into sixth gear. Very poor. But look, the Nations Championship is new. Obviously, there's no legacy and there's no fear. It's just 3 tests, just to set the tone. Grand. Lovely. None of this double games, triple games. Just get in for those 3 games and get out. And that's why I'm saying the experimentation is exactly what we need. But look, that is the bigger picture there. Whoever wins this summer series, fair play to them. But I do think Ireland's going to probably win 2 out of 3 of those games. And the one I think we probably will lose. And again, I'm not a betting man. So don't put the money on it, lads. But if you do, obviously give me some, because I'm telling you now. But I'm not a betting man. But I do think the one we'll lose is the one we're least expecting to lose, which will be the Japan game. Mainly because we're going to heavily rotate the team for that, right? It's going to be Australia first, beat them, happy out. Japan game comes along, heavily rotated team, might lose marginally, right? And then bring all those boys back for the New Zealand game and beat the All Blacks at Eden Park. Please, 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 please. Please, please. If there is a God. Oh my God. But yeah, look, that is it. Obviously, in order again, the next games, if you don't know them, round 1 is Australia versus Ireland. It's on Saturday, 4th of July. It's at 11:10 a.m. Irish time. So, fantastic. It's 8:10 p.m. local time, but no one really listens to this in Sydney, except Connor. Fair play to you. And the venue there is the Allianz Stadium in Sydney. Referees are also picked for that one. I think it's Ben O'Keefe. I'll have to double check that. But if I'm wrong, you just double check it. Now, here's the other thing. I don't know if they're going to be on domestic channels. I'm really hoping RTE have bought the rights for these, because they would just be devastating if they didn't. But it could very well be Virgin Media. One of them probably will have it. If not, TG Carter, all reliable. You won't be able to understand it, but you'll be able to watch it. That's actually very poor. I don't know Irish, unfortunately. Round 2 is Japan versus Ireland. That's the 11th of July, and that is also at 11:10 a.m. Irish time, so very early start there, but it's a Saturday, and that is in the McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. And then, last but not least, you have the All Blacks, New Zealand versus Ireland, Saturday, 18th of July, 8:10 a.m. Irish time. Unfortunately, you have to get up very early for that, so don't go on to pints on Friday, and that is in Eden Park in Auckland. And neither of those last 2 games I know the referee for. I don't think they've been decided for yet. But yes, that is it, folks. I mean, look at it. It's going to be an absolute cracker of a series. I'll be covering all of them, obviously, preview and review for all of them. Again, 36-man squad. Sheehan captaining after Doris is ruled out. Crowley's out. Porter's out. Doris is out. And Tommy Ryan are out. Obviously, they're the headline absentees there. We also have the young cap players. Billy Bowen, Samuel, Sean Jansen, who's on Connacht, Byrne and Zach Ward. And that is going to be a fantastic set of players to come up there for their uncapped debuts. Brilliant. But the Leinster contingent there, and I'll name them out one by one, since we should know them all at this stage. And that is Furlong, Conan, Ryan, Sheehan, Kelleher, Gibson Park, Ringrose, Henshaw, Keenan, Osborne, Prendergast, Byrne, Frawley, and Jimmy O'Brien. You'd lose your breath naming all them Leinster players in that team, huh? Sorry, lads. But yeah, look, the squad flew out to Australia there Monday, 23rd of June. And yeah, look, it's gonna be electric. I can't wait for it. I know you can't wait for it too. Alright, folks, that is her. If you haven't already, please do follow us on social media. Also, if you've noticed, I did a little guest podcast there with TQL Rugby. Thanks again to Chris for having me on. It was a fantastic little episode to have. If you haven't seen that, it's on YouTube. You can check the socials there, or just go on to TQL Rugby to find that. But yeah, folks, look, even though it's a while away, please do remember that we are back to the Lay Arena next year, and I actually just seen a couple more emails coming through and a couple more social media posts saying that there is some season tickets left on the north and south stand of the Leinster Rugby home of that. So if you do have a few extra bob flying around, why not buy a season ticket? Sure, you'll be there beside me, you know. That's where you want to be. You're not even going for the game. You're going actually to listen to me talk the whole way through the matches, right beside you, in your ear, saying, "Oh, I think Andy Farrell is going to go for fly-halves." But no, I won't be saying that. Not at all. But yeah, anyway, folks, as always, thanks for listening.